we'll talk about personnel then, I guess. That's well, maybe Rich will play an important part of this meeting with seasonal workers. Karen's on vacation. It's going around.
Welcome everyone to the Town of Brookfield Select Board meeting Tuesday, April 29th at 6 p.m. Please stand and pledge the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, announcements. The Brookfield Ecumenical Food Pantry at St. Mary's is seeking donations of condiments, paper products, liquid hand soap, shampoo, and laundry detergent. Items may be dropped off Wednesday and Saturdays from 9 to 11 a.m. at the food pantry at St. Mary's Church at the corner of Lincoln and Howard Streets. The Merrick Public Library is also accepting donations to the food pantry during open hours. Signed warrants.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have two signed warrants before us this evening. We have fiscal year 25-22, an accounts payable warrant in the amount of $202,340.92. And we have, once again, fiscal year 2025-22, a payroll warrant in the amount of $210,499.89.
All right, thank you. And agenda item number 1, Police Chief Michael Blanchard regarding Lincoln Street extension complaints.
Yes, as the board had indicated at the last meeting, after Mr. Wilcox had voiced his concerns with regards to issues that are occurring down on Lincoln Street extension, The board had asked to hear a response from Chief Blanchard. Before us, we do have a two-page response with regards to some of the issues that were brought up. So I don't know if you want me to read it, or if you all want to read it.
I think it might make sense to read it. Mr. Do you have a copy of it? Unless you want
Be
it.
here. That's what the select board said last time I was here, that he was going to be here tonight.
He wasn't able to make it.
Okay, so this is to the Select Board from Chief Michael K. Blanchard regarding 6 Lincoln Street Extension dated today, April 29, 2025. Honorable Select Board, this memo is in response to Mr. Wilcox's allegations that I am refusing to do anything about the activities occurring at 6 Lincoln Street Extension. To my knowledge, the current owner of the property had a repo/towing company business that he operated out of the property several years ago. It appears to have been defunct for several years at least. Whether or not the owner had the proper permits, zoning, or permissions from the town, I do not know. It was confirmed that there is currently no business permit for the property. There have been several vehicles, 11, at that property for several years, including a flatbed tow truck that was used for the repo towing business. Mr. Wilcox stated that this all started in 2022 when I refused to issue a citation or do anything about a person who crashed into a vehicle on his property and did not have a license. This accident occurred on March 3rd, 2022 at approximately 6 p.m. I was not on duty at this time. However, Officer Egbert Panero was and responded to the scene and conducted an investigation. As a result, the operator of the vehicle was issued a criminal citation for operating with a suspended license. That is the strongest option we can do, as we are not able to arrest for that violation unless we witness the operation. Nonetheless, criminal charges were filed against the driver. Activities at the garage appear to have picked up in September of 2024, and Mr. Wilcox states that I refuse to do anything about the parking on the sidewalk and the unregistered vehicles going up and down the road. I've only responded to 2 calls regarding issues at the property. The first was on December 9, 2024, when Mr. Wilcox called to complain that someone at the garage was revving a car engine. I responded to the area and listened for a while, but did not hear anything. Mr. Wilcox came out and spoke to me about the issue. I then went over and spoke to the person at the garage. He admitted to revving the engine, but only as it was necessary to work on the car. As it was just about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I advised him that I could not stop him from working on his car, but just try to be respectful of the neighbors and consider the noise he may be making. The other call I responded to was on March 27, 2025, when Mr. Wilcox called to report that someone at the garage had just dropped an unregistered vehicle off at the property. I responded to the garage, and I saw a tow truck in the driveway at 6 Lincoln Street Extension with the vehicle that Mr. Wilcox described still on the flatbed. I ran the registration of the vehicle on the flatbed, and it came back active and registered. The party there stated that he was fixing it for a relative. Even if the vehicle was unregistered, there was nothing I can do, as the town bylaw states that the vehicle cannot be there for more than 30 days. There were 2 calls to the department about unregistered motorcycles on the public way. The first was on October 13, 2024, about 2 dirt bikes operating on Lincoln Street Extension. Officer Murphy responded and spoke to them about the laws and rules for operating dirt bikes. He did not issue any citations, as this was the first encounter with the 2 individuals. There have not been any repeat issues with them on dirt bikes. The second time was January 5th, 2025, about an unregistered motor vehicle being driven on school property. Officer Murphy responded and located the people on school property that were test driving a motorcycle before deciding to purchase it. Officer Murphy explained that they could not do that, and they pushed the bike back to 6 Lincoln Street Extension. I have only issued 2 bylaw citations for more than 1 unregistered motor vehicle to the property owner. On January 11, 2025, Officer Murphy spoke to the property owner and advised him of the issues that were occurring on the property and about the number of unregistered vehicles. The owner stated that he was going to figure out a way to remove and get rid of them. On January 30th, 2025, a town bylaw citation was issued and mailed to the owner for violation of Chapter 12, Section 1, having more than 1 unregistered vehicle on the property for more than 30 days. After allowing some time for the owner to respond and not hearing from him, a second citation was issued on April 16th, 2024. I believe he means 2025. This was a decision made after the town administrator had consulted with town council. It would have been issued sooner, however, I had spoken to the people that were renting the place from the owner, and they advised me that they would get vehicles off the property. I allowed them some time to do this. They did not remove about 4 or 5 vehicles, though they did remove about 4 or 5 vehicles, but the rest remained. I then went to the owner's residence and hand-delivered the second bylaw citation to him. He stated that he never received the first one. I told him it was mailed to his address and the mail did not return it to sender. I explained that he could appeal both if he wished. I cannot just issue a citation every day because the bylaw is vague and doesn't say I can. The town has allowed for an appeals process. I cannot ask people not to park on Lincoln Street Extension. I have no authority to do so. Several people who live in the neighborhood have guests that occasionally park on the street as well. We can issue parking citations for people parked too close to the intersection and have done so. And that concludes the chief's response.
Do you guys want to add anything?
No, I've had several conversations with him. I disagree about, I guess I will, I disagree about the citation being issued once a month. I think it can be issued daily, and typically that's typically how the offenses are on a daily basis. I know our bylaw is vague, but I think it would bring the process to a head a lot quicker. I think if it was issued daily, I don't think we'd be sitting here tonight if we were issuing them daily. But that's just my opinion.
I know we had an issue in the past with unregistered vehicles. Did we find them daily, do we know?
Absolutely not. So if we're going to start to move that direction, we need to be uniform in our application of
Which
violations
other,
of
I'm
that
not privy to
bylaw.
what Brad's talking about.
I remember years ago, just from living in town and hearing about it.
Yeah, there was a couple of different properties.
I mean, when the
that had
because this
multiple-
bylaw, I think, is only probably 10 years
Yeah.
old or so.
There's multiple properties in town that are probably in violation of this right now. I know that there were a couple of other sites, probably 5-6 years ago, where they may have issued 1 or 2 citations, but it hasn't been usual and customary for us to do it daily. Now, if we want to discuss making that the policy, that when, and perhaps even putting something on the books at the next town meeting and let the town decide.
In
Or
fact,
just change the language.
yeah,
There is
Mr. Wilcox did submit a revised unregistered vehicle.
Yeah.
I did one more thing when you're done. I don't know if you were done or not.
So I'm not quite done.
Okay.
So, but like historic, now sometimes if like the zoning enforcement officer is involved in it, when we give appropriate notice with the first citation, then I think I've seen a few circumstances, not related to this bylaw, but related to the storage of open trash, where there's been a daily fine associated, because basically the way that the original citation was written was that they would be getting fined daily as part of the notice until such time as they cleaned it up.
Yeah, I believe that's how the bylaw is written specifically. It's on a daily occurrence until,
For the trash, it is.
yeah. So
For the open
and
storage
that's
of
what I
trash,
was
it is.
referring to when I said typically that's how they go. But you know, I don't think, it wouldn't be my goal to find this man, not one penny, but it is my goal to get him to clean the area up. There's multiple residents there that it's where every parent drops their kid off and picks them up at school. I've seen the vehicles being pushed and pulled in videos, and so it's just a tool to bring it to a head is why I thought it should be done on a daily basis. Not that I want to see, I don't even know that we can enforce it either way, but by doing it daily versus two citations in
4
6 months.
8 months. 8 months.
So 2 citations in however long it's been, it's probably not enough. It probably needs more action. So,
Did you say Did you talk to town council about this?
Yes, and
What did the-
she agreed that it's very vague. She said, could she defend it in a court? She said, sure, she could, but honestly, she said it probably wouldn't be upheld if we, issued multiple citations. She said it would be a difficult case to win because of the vagaries of the...
But my thought is, this is the least cost to the town. We're not paying town council to go to court like we
Right.
do when we have our zoning enforcement officer. So I thought this would be the most cost-effective and most sensible way to get that place cleaned up. And I've been involved with cases before where the judge will broker a deal and say, hey, look, you clean it up, you get X amount of time and everything goes away. And if the town's agreeable to that, and I think we would be, we're just looking to get the place cleaned up, so.
Okay.
I'm good.
So have we had the zoning enforcement officer, because it's not just the cars, there was also tires, there was also some other materials.
I believe the Board of Health has been contacted and they've been out, and I think they've also issued some
Yeah,
demands.
We've adopted kind of a three-pronged approach. One is the unregistered vehicles. The other, as Rich had mentioned, the Board of Health has been out there recently issuing citations. In fact, they hit the whole street with different citations. And then also the zoning enforcement officer issuing citations as well.
Do we have a report from the Board of Health about what was issued
We
and to whom?
do, I could get that for the board.
Okay, that'd be great.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would like to know,
Do you want to come up just because he's got, yeah?
we can hear,
Oh, you can? Either way.
I don't care, I'll sit on there. I would like to know why nobody's been arrested, because our chief or our police department went after a gentleman in town because his kid was riding on his own private property without a helmet on a motorcycle or a mini bike or whatever, so our police department took them to court. And they catch them red-handed driving on a public way and in a school parking lot with no helmets, no nothing. And you don't just ride a motorcycle because you're going to sell it. That's private property. They do not belong on it, unregistered, uninsured, no helmet, and they caught them red-handed. You don't just walk away and say, oh, sorry, you can put it in the truck and go home. Our police department ain't doing nothing. And that letter he wrote is crap. Because I've called multiple times, multiple. He might have come once or twice, but his officer have been there multiple times. And they're not doing anything. And that's a reflection on him, not them. He's the one that runs the boat down there, and he ain't doing his job.
Well, I will again say the police chief has told me that he's issued no tolerance from this point forward. I don't know that there's been much activity.
The electricity got shut off because they couldn't afford a $300 and something electric bill because they're dirt bags, okay? So a $300 and something electric bill, so now they got no lift, no air for their compressors, no lights, no nothing. And they haven't been there in a week because they got no money, because they're scum. And they're in Brookfield. They should go back to Southbridge where they live.
Okay. I think that's it.
I think that's
2
pretty much,
minutes.
2 minutes is up. isn't
Yeah.
it?
Oh, and by the way, after I had my little spiel here 2 weeks ago, the chief decided to put more patrols on my street.
So there's only a 2-minute time allotment to come up and speak. I apologize.
Well, he didn't do any patrols till after I came to the meeting. Now they come every 4 hours.
Understood.
You know what I mean? So when I say something, then he jumps.
Thank you.
Or when you guys hear about it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I think I can speak for the chief at this point that he has said no tolerance any longer for the property and the people that are doing the things they've given them multiple breaks for. So, and like Mr. Wilcox said, they've not been out since the no tolerance. So I don't know how to take much more action other than the 3 things that are in place. But I would like to see the citations issued more frequently.
So, I mean,
So there's no, Ron, do you have that bylaw with you by chance?
I do not know.
I don't think
here, let's
there's
pull it up.
I don't think there's a fee, Beth, that's associated with it.
There is.
Is there?
Actually, so for anything that's a violation of our bylaws, I believe there's up to a $250 fee per citation.
But this is specific not to our town bylaws, but more specific to the police chief, who's the only one that has the control over the vehicles. So maybe you could just refresh me on that.
Yeah. Because same like the dog laws that we have, those ones, I think there's a particular like first offense through third offense language, but I think there's like some generic language in our bylaws about what the maximum cost of a particular citation can be. I just don't remember it off the top of my head. Is it under our general bylaws or zoning bylaws?
Well, I'm looking in zoning right now.
Okay, I'll look under general. Come on, Peter.
Must be under the general.
Okay. Okay.
I'd look, but I'm certain you'll have it, I guess.
So for a criminal complaint, if we chose to enforce any of these as a criminal complaint, the maximum penalty for each offense is $300.
So even if you did it every day, you could only do it for...
You could do it for $300 a day. Now, for the motor vehicle one, there's a specific first offense, $25, second offense, $50, third offense, $100. It doesn't indicate anything past the $100.
Exactly.
So, I suspect you can't exceed that per instance.
Right.
Just by virtue of the fact that it stops there. So,
But, whether it's 4 months, 6 months, or 8 months, there's been 2 fines issued. They've been
Yeah.
called to service there, according to Mr. Wilcox, multiple times, more than what the chief said, but, I don't, and it's somewhere in between. But I don't know if he's issued 125 and 150. It's not very
Yeah, and-
motivating
right.
if it's 8 months.
right. And the flip side is that apparently they got 4 or 5 of the cars out of there.
2.
2?
2. In 8 months, 2.
Okay,
There's 9 cars still left over there.
okay.
So you can't
So-
count.
So maybe we need to just do something to get it to a head. If it's not daily, it's weekly. Certainly, we need to certainly step it up so that
Yeah.
something happens.
I mean, I would agree with that. Do we have any idea what the timeline would be relative to any citations or directions from Board of Health?
I confuse myself with this process of following up with CNN just because the owner and butter mine.
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I apologize. I'm just trying to find out if we had any information regarding what was going on with it.
Yeah, I can certainly follow up, and as I said, I'll get the report from the Board of Health, I'll submit it to the Select Board.
Okay, yeah, that would be great. Because I think we have more room to enforce that. There's a lot of power under Board of Health and health agents. And honestly, the trash is probably
But I don't-
more of a risk than the health risk than the
Yeah.
vehicles are, right?
Yeah, the vehicles are just an eyesore.
You know, right?
Attractive nuisance.
Yeah, potentially an attractive nuisance, you're correct. So, I think what we want to do is probably send a memo back to the chief, or one of us can speak with him about upping the energy level around the citations. I think he was probably aiming for, hey, I give him 30 days to get the stuff out of there, and it sounds like he probably lost track of it,
Could be. Yeah.
right?
Are we talking weekly, bi-weekly?
I'm thinking weekly.
Weekly, okay.
Yeah, I'm thinking weekly, is that every time they get there and there's not some number of vehicles gone, they get cited again. And one of the things we probably want to check with town council is each vehicle an offense?
That's the gray zone. The way that it's worded, a defense could be made one way or the other.
One way or the other.
How do you read the bylaw?
So, I mean,
Because I thought in the past we treated it as every vehicle.
was an individual offense. So I'd be more inclined to basically show up and ticket them for each vehicle weekly, which would then encourage getting the head count down faster, right? Yeah, if you showed up every day, but it's not going to be enforceable. I mean, I hate to put it this way, if they're not paying a $300 electrical bill to use the property, we're probably never going to see the money from any of the citations, but if it goes on the books, it can at least potentially cause some trouble for them.
Yeah.
So, and I guess the question I would also have is that does the citation go to the property owner or does it go to the vehicle owners,
I would say property,
I
owner for
agree.
sure.
right?
It's up to the property owner if
To
it's the
enforce on their
tenant.
tenant.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Is that a motion, or do you want a motion, or how do you?
I'll give a motion that we advise the chief that we'd like to see weekly citations based on the number of vehicles on the property.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Next item? Good. Appointment alternate planning board member Bruce Clark.
I'm going to recuse myself.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we appoint Bruce as an alternate planning board member.
Second. Any discussion?
Why do we need an alternate? Why now?
We got a letter from the planning board to make this appointment in case someone needs to recuse himself, in the event that someone has to recuse himself from the planning board for any possible votes. We typically have.
We usually have 1 to 2
Right.
alternate members, so the fact that we've been running without them for a while is actually concerning.
You're running
The fact we've been running without alternates for a while is concerning. Historically speaking, we've had 1 to 2 alternates. I believe that's what's allowed under Mass General Law for the planning board.
Yep.
Is up to 2?
I mean, because I did read the letter, I saw the letter from Dunbar, where they're trying to keep the planning board together as a whole, because we have, as far as confusion, they've been a part of it for some time now, so I mean, they're all aware of what's going on with that, to make a decision. But to argue that too, I know Mr. Steve, our last name, Mr. Carmen's been attending these meetings for quite some time now, so he's well informed of what's going on, you know. Just probably as much as any of the board members themselves, so I think he's well capable of making a decision, you know, an educated decision. So I don't see why that would even play into the letter from Dunbar. Really not.
Yeah, it doesn't preclude the situation.
I mean,
He
the
does-
only reason that an alternate is, I think at this point,
It gives the option to the board to have an alternate.
Or there's plans to maybe force somebody out to not make a decision on that vote. Only because, you know, we've all heard Mr. Carmen speak before. He's very intelligent, well-spoken, and, you know, we take the time to educate himself on the topics and whatnot. We're good wrong with that.
Where are we at the time?
Just about there.
Yep. Are you good?
I figured what I was going to say where I was going with it. But like I said, not going in blind, you know, he's not blind with it. He's very on top of it. So,
Mhm.
that's all I got to say.
Go ahead.
I have no issue with Bruce Clark being appointed an associate member of the planning board.
Okay.
Just adoptions.
Thank you for that.
So for a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Appointment Town Hall Improvement Committee, Kathy LaRocca.
I'll make a motion to appoint Kathy LaRocca to the Town Hall Improvement Committee.
I could second that vigorously.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Open meeting law complaints, discussion.
Yes, we received an open meeting law complaint dated April 21st, 2025 from Mr. Kelleher with regards to some perceived improprieties and violations. I have drafted a proposed response. If you want me to read that, it should be in your packet.
I've read it. I don't disagree with the letter, but I do think that we need to mind the behavior we've had today, which was a failure to use the timer.
Yeah.
So
We need to be more consistent with
we
the
need to
timer.
be incredibly more consistent with our application of the board rules.
Well, if Ron's going to be cognizant of it every time, I'm totally good with it. I picked up on just the last meeting, at the end of the meeting, that he was doing that, so I'm good with it.
Actually didn't read it.
Yeah, I did actually read it. So,
6:32.
All right. We're good.
all right, so do you want a motion to provide this to Mr. Kelleher?
Correct, yeah, and the Attorney
All
General's
right,
office.
I'll make that motion to
I'll
provide it to
second
Mr. Kelleher in the
Any
Attorney General's
discussion?
office.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I mean, we can come back to it too, if you do want to read it. I have
No,
no problem with it.
nope.
I just don't want to keep the
I'm hoping
advisory board
I'm hoping
meeting.
not to come to another meeting.
Well, I mean, not after the advisory board.
No, I'm good. Discuss legal services account budget variance continued.
We'll
In
take
your-
the board and then go back to, if you don't want to take the advisory. So-
Well, they're at 7.
Oh, I thought
right?
it was 6:30.
Oh, no, sorry, 6:30, sorry.
I did
Not
warn
keep
him,
them waiting.
it might be
Yeah, but
6:30-ish.
it means that, so the only thing that it obligates us to do is not start before 6:30 when we put it on there.
I know,
so.
but I hate to keep them waiting.
I hate to keep them waiting too.
May I speak?
Sure.
Sure.
I am happy for the select board to do its business so that when we get on, we're at the last order of business and we can go
Focus
as long
on
as
you.
we need to get everything.
Well, I think everything else here should be quick.
Quick.
And I think you guys probably want to hear what we have to say about legal services.
That's fine, but I have no problem
Yeah.
with us waiting.
Thank you, Jeff.
And I appreciate your concern, but again,
Okay.
I've got these things at 11:30
Fair enough.
and so.
Can guarantee you we're not going to be here.
No, I understand that,
Yeah.
but I'd rather get.
I get your point. Thank you.
All right, what did you want to say about?
Yes, and I was going to say, we did receive the bill through end of March, and as you can see, it's brought us pretty much right up to the budgeted amount. We're just short of $60,000, and Karen did reach out to KP Law, and they had indicated that the April bill, which granted is not complete at this point, but it's in the neighborhood of $10,000. So at this point, it's fair to say we're around the $70,000 mark in our law account, so we are considerably over. I notified Lori, and it's certainly on her concern list as well, and she's already looking to see what kind of municipal transfer relief we might be able to invoke.
Okay.
And so this alone is 60,000,
Correct.
and the other 10 is probably affiliated.
Yeah, they didn't have a breakdown, but I think it's similar percentage.
Yep. Anything else with that?
No, just wanted to let you know, because we did receive the...
Did you hear all that?
the market.
We're at 70,000 for legal on a $60,000 budget.
I mean, with the transfer relief and the reserve fund, we will be okay this year, and then
Yeah.
That gets us through April, right?
Yeah, through April, let's call it 70,000.
Cable studio coordinator, formalized employment contract discussion and vote.
Yes, and once again, you'll see in your packet, there is a draft contract for the cable studio coordinator. And this is basically a 3-year contract, more or less asking Jacob to continue to do what he's been doing with regards to cable studio coordination and the roles and responsibilities of that.
I'll make a motion to extend Jacob's contract.
Oh, this is a new
This is a new
contract.
contract to
Oh,
establish,
yeah.
to establish the current relationship as a contract.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to accept the contract as written for the cable studio coordinator.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You have to sign it?
Yeah. 29th.
And
Keep an eye on it.
Actually, can I come home for a second?
Sure. So,
That's okay.
So if possible, under the agenda item, under the Massachusetts General Law 268A, Section 20, which is the conflict of interest law, I hold multiple positions with the town, so I'm the IT coordinator, and I'm also the
Okay, so we need to vote you as a special exempt employee.
a special employee, and then also to specifically acknowledge my disclosure. There is a disclosure on file with Mike Siri, the town clerk, so basically make the position special, and then to acknowledge the disclosure and exempt my interest from Section 20. So,
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we designate the Town of Brookfield Cable Studio Coordinator position as a special municipal position. Acknowledge Jacob's disclosure that he holds 2 positions and exempt him under Section 20.
I'll second that.
any discussion?
Question, is that disclosures to Mike Siri for elected officials? And if you're making a disclosure from an appointed board, you're supposed to go to your appointing authority. The appointed authority needs to review that disclosure before they act on it.
You might have a point.
That's true, but all of us have knowledge of the positions that he holds.
Have you reviewed
The explicit disclosure, no. What's,
that's the rule.
okay. We have the,
Thank
do we have
you
the
for pointing that
do we have
out.
the content of the disclosure
I do.
available? Can you go print, do
Yep.
you have ability to print it?
Yep.
We can just review it on the. on-
because you are my appointing authority.
We are the
Correct.
appointing authority, yes.
It's a valid point.
Save you some right here.
In case somebody else brings it up, appreciate that. And we can remediate it on the spot, because I think he has printing authorization, given that he runs the network.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, I'll print 4 copies, just a minute.
That'd be awesome, thank you.
You want to go to the minutes?
Let me just bang these up real quick.
I'm not going to sign it.
Oh.
Recuse myself.
Does it matter if I sign this or not? He had recused
I
himself.
recuse myself, so I'm not going to sign it. So one of you guys,
As
yeah?
the chair, you should be able to sign.
Yeah.
But
What you would
I'll
do
have
is-
to come back.
What you do is you sign 4, and print your name above.
Oh, just
Yeah. Yeah.
Karen can always find me.
Yep, exactly. And just put your title, do a single line and do your title, chair. I figure if it's legal in aerospace, it can be legal in municipalities. Probably okay. Here's this. 'Cause that's not going to change regardless of what we're discussing on the disclosure.
Okay, so the printer's out of toner, but I can pull up the disclosure on my laptop.
That's cool. Do you mind if I speed read it?
Yeah.
Or we can read it out loud for all I care. Do you want me to read it out loud for the
Yeah, I think
crowd?
that'll be better if we don't each have a copy. It just makes it,
And this doesn't, and it's not like it's a huge amount. Okay, so this is a standard form that's under General Law, Chapter 268A, Section 20C. It indicates his name, Jacob Gorham. It indicates by classification of his position by municipal agency or by terms of contract or by conditions of employment. I am permitted to have personal or private employment during business hours, right? The title and positions are Cable Studio Coordinator and IT Technology Manager. For special municipal employee, because a municipal agency is contracted with your company or organization, please provide the name and address of company or organization. That is, and I always massacre the name, Enervy.
On every. Yeah,
And
it's okay.
Avery, 25 Madden Road, West Brookfield, Massachusetts. This is my municipal agency, which is the select board for the town of Brookfield and the Brookfield Community Media Local Access. Agency address 6 Central Street, Brookfield, Massachusetts. Office phone 508-867-2930. Office email selectmen@brookfieldma.us. They are non-elected positions. Starting date as special municipal employee was 1/1/2021 as IT manager. 12/15/2022 interim cable studio coordinator, and then 7/1/24 permanent cable studio coordinator. And let's see here, is there any additional information in
And it
here?
may have just printed, so I think I
did-
heard.
I think it- yeah, I think I
It
heard
finally
it go
kicked in,
too.
yeah.
And then it goes, we ignore box 1 because that's for elected folk. For non-elected special municipal employees, he has issued statement 1. I have a financial interest in a contract made by a municipal agency other than an employment contract before I took the non-elected compensated special municipal employee position. I will continue to have this financial interest in a municipal contract. In statement 2, I will have a new financial interest in a contract made by a municipal agency. My financial interest in contract made by the municipal agency is a contract between municipal agency and myself. And then financial interest in municipal contract, the municipal agency, again, is Town of Brookfield Select Board for the Town of Brookfield. The X indicates that in my work as a special municipal employee for the municipal agency, I do not participate in or have official responsibility for any of the activities of the contracting agency. He is not a member of the select board, hence he's not issuing a contract to himself, is what that section means, right? And then explain what the contract is for: to design, install, recording, and broadcast studio in a town hall to allow significantly increased participation in public meetings, to enable two-way communication between second floor of Great Hall and first floor banquet hall, allowing participants on either floor to view and participate in meetings on the opposite floor. This is in addition to general managed IT services and acting as its appointed cable studio coordinator. Answer in this: if there's a contract between the municipal agency and any other person or entity, is blank. What is their financial interest in the municipal contract? The contract is for labor and materials in the amount of $75,197. And that was the January 30th, 2025 contract signed. And then it's signed employee signature, Jake McGorman, and January 30th, 2025.
So should we do the motion all over again now that this has been filed and we're
Okay,
now?
so now that we've reviewed the disclosure, I make was there anything else
I don't
procedurally?
have my glasses on. I thought you put your hand up.
Okay. Well, I think that stands. I think that the motion is out there and seconded, right?
Yep.
So I think
Okay.
now, I think the discussion was that we have now reviewed the disclosure and we can
Yep.
just vote it, because God help me, I don't want to repeat that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
And thank you for the loan of your laptop, sir. Appreciate that.
Beth still has it to sign.
What, the contract?
Yeah.
No, I handed it to
Oh,
Mr.
okay.
Aponte.
Okay.
So we need to get actually Jacob's signature on it.
Yeah.
Discussion, Communications Committee posting on town website.
I had a discussion with Mr. Carmen about that, but I think I'm going to pass over that for the
Table it
sake.
for
Okay.
Okay. You all right with that? Thank you.
Approve select board minutes for 4/17/25.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for 4/17/25 as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Acknowledge fire department report for March 2025.
I'll make a motion to accept the report and congratulate firefighter Jesse Merriam on 4 years with the department as of the March 22nd.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you for catching that.
Well,
Acknowledge
part I
emergency
care about the most.
medical services report for February and March 2025.
I'll make a motion that we acknowledge the report from the emergency services as well.
I'll second that as well.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And just, let's see here, as a note, anniversary on that one is, and they didn't put how many years for Matt Graves, but we have paramedic Peter Martell at 39 years. Lieutenant paramedic Matthew Graves, they didn't give us what year anniversary it is, but I think for him it's
37 maybe? It's not very much behind.
well, it's a few behind. I think it's
Yeah.
probably like 32 would be my guess. Because he's a bit younger than Peter is. Though he started very young.
Yeah.
And EMT Dan Esser, 5 years. Luke Quattroselli, 5 years. And Sean Adams, 5 years. So a lot of longevity on there. So a lot of loyalty. So
There is, yeah.
All right. So joint meeting with advisory committee. So do you guys need to open?
you need to open your meeting.
Open your meeting?
On the table and we'll open the meeting. I'm not going to be plugged into the meeting.
You don't have to.
Ours will cover you.
And it's not technically a requirement.
Trying to do the right thing. Because we always start. Okay. You all set, Bob?
Cool, what, Chad?
Yeah, pull up a chair. Okay, we will call the meeting of the advisory committee into session at 6:47. And we will have no announcements, no reading of the minutes, and we will go right to our discussion of the budget of the select board.
Mr. Chairman, if you want, I can maybe walk you through the executive summary. and just kind of give you a 30,000-foot overview of where we currently stand after the advisory committee has voted and to make their recommendations. So as you can see from the top page of the budget packet, we have broken the executive summary into the top half, which is the revenue section. And as you can see from, these are estimates based upon actuals and literally updated as of this morning after reviewing with the numbers, the actuals with Lori. And as you can see, the estimates for fiscal year 26 bring us to over $11 million. The total receipts, if you notice, it's the beginning of that second section, is actually $27,000 less than we had brought in last year, which obviously is of concern, but that is based upon actuals that we have seen, year to date. She actually ended up revising her revenue estimates downward based upon the actuals, so that these are reflected in these numbers right here. Local aid also came down ever so slightly, literally a few $100s from the debate through the House of Representatives. We anticipate that it's probably going to stay stable at this point, just based upon past practice. The Senate generally doesn't touch the local receipts, or excuse me, the local aid. So we're pretty confident on the local aid number. Now, the big addition you'll see on the revenue side is total ambulance receipts. And that, once again, is just based upon what she has seen year to date. And that number is probably the number that we have the least amount of confidence in right now. As we had discussed earlier, the ambulance, the proposal is for, in this budget, is to take ambulance instead of having them as standalone warrant articles, to bring them into the collective general budget, if you will, much like all the other departments, fire, police, highway, so on and so forth. And as such, we're now reflecting the ambulance receipts in the actual revenue. So as you can see, the variance, a positive variance year over year, is we have approximately $265,000 of new revenue, and that represents just under a 2.5% increase. Now, if you move down to the expenses, we have what I refer to as the mandatory expenses, which are the schools, which we know in the setup that we currently have with the schools being regional, it's all but impossible to not pay whatever the assessed or the assessment is. So the schools did go up $155,000. If you note under debt and assessments, you'll also see an increase there as well. So for those mandatory expenses going up 3.15%. And then what I have titled discretionary expenses is the next grouping there. And you see we've grouped that into general government, public safety, public works, so on and so forth. And as you can see from there, a very, very slight, less than a 1% increase in that discretionary income. And we actually have a slight, an increase of 2.42%. And if you go all the way down to the shaded number under the variance, you see a positive variance of $4,000, which looks great, except for that does not include the COLA, which obviously has not been determined as of yet. The COLA estimates from Lori are listed below for 2%, 2.5%, 3%, and 3.5%. So basically, as the advisory committee is recommending a 2% COLA, so what we'd have to do is take the $37,000, apply that as an additional expense. So you can see at that point, we'd be running about a $32,000 deficit. And when I say deficit, what I'm really saying is that the new expenses exceeds the new revenues by that $32,000. The column just to the left of that will show you we have, even after the COLA is applied, let's say the 2% COLA, we're still going to be in the neighborhood of $200,000, what I call headroom between our budget and our levy.
And that's what I was going to say, is that trying to present that as being, $32,000 underwater is not sensical when you're talking about actually against your your taxable revenues, right?
What I'm trying to point out there is expenses are exceeding, new expenses are exceeding new revenues, which, and Lori and I both agree, that's certainly something, since we have quite a bit of headroom underneath the levy limit, that's something you can accept for a year or two in a small amount, but it's clearly an unsustainable long-term position to be in. Because-
Absolutely.
Yeah, so if I could maybe just add a little bit to what Ron has done a wonderful job in taking a good amount of the burden that you all are familiar with, even the advisory committee is undergoing for the last umpteen years. We did project us being under that number until we just found out just before the meeting about the $27,000 shift in the revenue. So we had originally planned with our recommendations to be maybe 4,000 or 5,000 under that, so which is certainly, as you're saying, manageable and still under the levy limit. But we were trying to do as thorough and responsible job as possible. And the other thing that I wanted to mention, which I think will stand out, is that the budgets that were presented by the department heads, we talked to everyone, and we explained the situation as far as, you know, the decrease in the revenues and everything else. So I think it's probably the first time that we've had some significant, let's say, decreases or recommendations that are less than what, you know, fire, highway, and police were asking for. So we're really looking at the core of the town services, and I think everyone is comfortable with that, you know, trying to get down where we think it can be both cost effective and efficient. That's not to say that we're infallible, but we did, you know, a pretty good job, and I feel very comfortable that the numbers that we're recommending are, you know, a very good shot. Whether you want to try to do something different, again, that's up to you guys. But I think it's the first time that we have had such cohesion and sort of smooth movement through the whole process, which to me just indicates that we have a good foundation of professionals here in the building, and that the department has understanding where we're going, I think. And the whole thing with the bringing the ambulance services in, I thought was a very positive strategy or something that we needed to do because other towns are doing that, but also because we have a little bit more ability to manage some of the fine details that we didn't do before. And so that'll take a little bit of time for everyone to look at. But so anyway, I think, and I'd like to thank again, I'm droning on here, but I wanted to thank the group because we have a small group, but I think we're very committed and very vocal. And we didn't have too many disagreements, as in past years we've had a few, but I think we're right there as far as the numbers we've presented. So I'm not going to answer any questions or respond to any issues.
I do have one question.
Sure.
Just because I think it would make it more, I want to say defensible on the floor, is that Social Security COLA is 2.5. Our budget variance functionally is 2.4. To not present an image of trying to balance our budget on the backs of our employees, I would recommend that we go 2.5 from a standpoint of what to do for COLA.
We've talked about this before, but the one thing we haven't talked about is when Social Security gives those, they take it all away in Medicare usually, and then some. So sometimes they go backwards. So not that everything is dictated on Social Security, right?
No, but it's what
we
we
have
use
not,
as a
we have
bar.
not asked for an increase in health care to our employees, like a lot of communities have. That's staying the same, and I'm on board with the 2% that the advisory board has brought forward. Because like Ron said, it's unsustainable once we start spending more. And then as we go up incrementally, every year it's going to grow quicker, right? Based on just the progression. And I think I'm firm at the 2% where the advisory board ended up.
Well, let's just be clear on that. I mean, we had conversations about various numbers, and we just thought we'd just look at the 2% number as being a placeholder. I don't recall a vote on for that. In the conversation we had, I don't.
We voted on the 2%. In the beginning, that's not to say that we can't change it,
well,
but
right.
what we,
Only to get.
because we had those,
Yes.
the expenses with the school and then the, what was it, the insurance or whatever, so we figured we better start it there because we felt comfortable with that, and then again, it's open to
Yeah,
discussion as it
and-
goes along. Yeah.
At the end of the day, 2% doesn't balance the budget either.
Well-
We're 4,600 over currently.
Well, we're not 4,600 over. So available for raise and appropriate, that variance is the change. So the way this is written could be very misconstruing, Tim. So the way, we are $233,000 under the levy limit.
Right.
So what I'm trying to say is that if we're $233,000 under the levy limit, and I understand what people are saying is that it's not sustainable for a few years, but if I start doing the math on $6,000 a year difference, or $9,000 a year difference, okay, on $233,000 a year, it's not sustainable 40 years from now, if nothing changes with regards to our trends on our revenues, okay? That's not math that's really easy to support. If someone decides to turn our town meeting into a shit show over 0.5% because we're not meeting the Social Security COLA, and it's happened in the past, okay? The other piece is that other years, when that Social Security COLA was 8.9%, we didn't do it, okay? The least we can do is in a reasonable year, when we have the budget to do it, is at least align on that one index that typically is not confrontational. The other thing is, long-term budget cost perspective, right? We are paying a big lump sum to get into this new healthcare system. I think next year we'll have a second lump sum to get into it,
Correct.
right? In the third year,
We're positive.
we're positive, substantively positive. So
But we
to
don't-
leave ourselves open for $9,000 to being perceived as balancing our budget on the backs of our employees, I think is ludicrous.
All right, well, let's clarify where I'm lost here.
Okay.
I'm just trying to look at this bill for raise and appropriate, so we're spending all that money. I see someone suggesting that with a balanced budget that, well, and there's two budgets, there's the proposals and then there's AdCom, there's no select board column here, right? So we're not sure what that is, right? So, but when I look at the numbers here, the request was 11,124,000, AdCom agreed with 11,04,40.
I'd like to not have an AdCom and a select board budget. I'd like to just get us aligned on one number, right? Okay, I think that just causes chaos, right? That's why we're here tonight, right?
But that's a secondary point. The
Yeah.
primary point I'm trying to suggest is, so how much do we have extra?
According to this, we have $233,913 and some odd cents.
This is how far we are from the levy. It's over $233,000, $913.47 from the
Yeah.
levy. But is it 10%?
Well, 5% is usually what DOR recommends for headroom.
So this is the 5% that the DOR recommends. So Beth is saying to go 2.5 because we still have some wiggle room, even though we're gonna go less than 5%. But, it's the employees, and we said 2% to begin with,
Yeah.
so.
And it's really just to align on some number that if somebody is trying to make a campaign to say, hey, we're just kind of sticking it to people, we can say, look, it's the same as Social Security. We've talked about this in the past. It's a decent index to use. It's municipal government. Let's not leave ourselves a wedge, right?
There's a balance here. you're always proposing, let's not balance the budget on the backs of the employees.
Yep.
But I never hear you mention balancing the budget on the back of the taxpayers. The taxpayers have to be taken into account here too. We don't have to spend up to the levy limit.
I'm not advising that we spend up to the levy limit. I'm advising that we spend $9,000 more to have a pleasant and smooth town meeting and people feel valued, okay? And you know what? They're all in customer service, right? If we're increasing our budget 2.4%, if the state law says that we roughly have 2.5% per year, that's our cap. It's 2.5% seems to be the magic number in the state of Massachusetts for whatever reason.
Well, I think
right?
it was Proposition 2.5 is what put that in, not the state budget, but it's the
Well,
federal
no,
government.
that's what I'm saying. State law, we voted ourselves a state law because for years we were the joke of the region of being Taxachusetts, right? And I can tell you, I am grateful every day that even though I work in Connecticut, that I live in Massachusetts, because I would not want to pay taxes down there for services that aren't much better, okay? So I think we've done our due diligence, and I don't think that the $9,000 to do 2.5% for the employees is going to break the back of the taxpayer. I think it's a penny per thousand for $2,000 in the budget.
100 grand is
So it's an
less than a
additional.
quarter.
Right, so you're paying an additional 25 cents per taxpayer roughly to do that.
But that's what we've been saying year after year after year, and the taxes go up. They're not going up slow breath, right? When my taxes for my house, when I first built it, was $1,200, and it went up 2.5%, not so bad. But now that they're 6,000 and 7,000 and they're going up 2.5%, it's a lot. So where do we stop? You know, and I'm comfortable with the 2%, and and it's not to say the town employees don't deserve more, and you've made the statement before, really the saving the money is not this end of Central Street, it's the other end, and I couldn't agree more, but we could have sat somewhere. So I'm not disagreeing with a lot of what you're saying, but I just think we need to start somewhere.
I'm gonna say my opinion, sorry, but if we're gonna give them the 2.5%, and I kinda wanna look at expenses more and kinda see what we can cut expense-wise. If we're gonna have to, if you
I mean,
wanna
if we
do
could go find $9,000 from what's already been budgeted, I think
All right,
that would be
so,
great.
Again, let me just step in, because my thought process, I did not explain, or maybe the two of us, we miscommunicated as far as what the numbers represented, because I normally go off with the levy limit, and I was looking at this as we're over the levy limit. Okay, that's not the case. So I'm trying to explain to Tim here exactly what's going on, is that we're going to be, as you said, overspending what our projected revenues are coming in, which is different. There's a couple of areas where we chopped, but we didn't totally. So that might be, I know we want to talk about the COLA, but I'm almost thinking we should go through the budget so that you agree with that or not agree with that, and then go back to the COLA, let people.
And let's identify if there's areas, yeah, let's do that. Let's go with your plan.
Because the only point that I had was that after we've had several conversations, I'm still a little bit confused about the numbers in the highway department. Not that I want to chop any more, but I'm still, as far as the head count and everything else, seasonal workers versus the other. So I'm just thinking this afternoon, once I heard from Ron about this, the revenue drop, that maybe the seasonal worker number is higher than it should be, but I wasn't certain. So I'm just throwing that out there as a possible way that we might be able to save a little bit. And so I wanted to throw that out and see if we get any further insight into it.
What I could do towards that.
Let's have Jeff drive then.
Yeah, I was going to say, because literally kind of go through page 1, page 2, point out the highlights. And
Yeah,
All right.
let's do that.
Okay. But that was the only one where I thought that there was a little bit of a confusion or disagreement. Everything else I thought was, was pretty buttoned up, but we can go through it, which is fine. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Okay, let me make one comment first. The total expenses that Ron has here under the fiscal year 2026 is from the deliberations done by the advisory committee. That's the total we came up with. There are some problematic areas that you're going to want to review to see whether or not you agree with the cuts.
That's what he just said, yeah.
Specifically, fire department, fire and highway.
And police.
Yeah.
Right, well, that's what I said originally, that's the first time that we,
Yeah, what I'm pointing out is,
Don't get mad.
all right.
what I'm pointing out is that total expenses may change dramatically based on their review of those three areas. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, if they don't agree with us,
They want
that,
to go
then,
up, yeah.
oh, yeah, then that $4,000, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, because
Yeah.
our budget is $84,000 less than the fiscal 26 request.
All right.
Correct, because of cuts.
So are we ready? Are we gonna go through?
Yeah, I was going to say, I can kind of walk through.
Can I just ask, I'm sorry, one other question, did you have a chance to go through everything before you got here, or this is the first you're seeing there?
This is my first of seeing the warrant.
The DJ.
But not,
I apologize, maybe I'm going into the weeds before you even get to see the big picture. So,
Yeah.
No, it's okay. So let's go into the weeds. I'm down with that.
we got till 11:30.
No, we don't.
No, we don't.
No, we don't. No. We can have a way more effective conversation, and I'm fine moving on to the rest of the budget so we can have that conversation. I'm even fine if we don't make 100% of the decisions today, so long as we walk away with homework assignments about what we need to make decisions on, right? We don't have to adjudicate 100% of it today.
But it's much smoother than the last year, and the last year before that, as we remember, I think.
Yep.
So
Let's go.
proceed.
You're in charge, or one of you's driving.
Yeah,
Who's driving?
I'll take the bus.
Okay, you're taking the bus. You got the wheel.
Okay, so under general government here on page 1, I'll just point out a couple of the highlights. Total technology, you can see there's a $5,000 increase. That is purely a guess. We're going to go out to contract to a 3-year contract bid, and that could come in at $70,000, it could come in at $90,000. But as you can see, increase it by about $5,000, and we're hoping for the best there. The key here also is, as discussed previously, legal services have jumped up to $75,000. So it's obviously significant. The town accountant, very minor contractual increases there. And the advisory committee actually, putting their money where their mouth is, took away over $500 from their clerk's salary.
Before we go further, to have the select board review under general government, the all boards clerk, because of the decrease there.
Yep, and that,
Whether or not they agree with that.
yep, the decrease there is just reflective of the hours. The board has agreed to 10 hours per week versus the originally scheduled, it was 15 or 12 or 15. So that is reflective in the $5,000
Isn't that what we
decrease.
voted? Yeah.
Yep,
So, yeah, we're fine with it because we voted the hour difference.
correct. Yep, thanks, Mike. Okay, questions on page 1? Concerns?
If it winds up not being enough time, then we'll figure it out.
Okay, so as far as the assessors, the key there is a couple things. One, there's a minor increase in clerk wage, but that's just reflective of Patty's new rate, which she didn't start on July 1. It was actually delayed a few weeks or so, so you'll see that's the difference there. The other key here is moving from $31,000 for assessors' expenses, which is really more consulting. That's Roy, if you will. And the assessors have gone from $31,000 down to $10,000. Key to note is FY26 is not a valuation year, so in fiscal year 27, we should expect that to go up.
I'm gonna stop you. I have a question. Did you figure this out, this consulting expenses versus assessor's expenses yet?
Yes, I talked to Lori. Lori said she's no problem if we want to combine the two together. She just has to make a chart of accounts change.
Well, that's not what we wanted. We wanted to know what the consultant principal were separate from.
Yeah, Rich, yeah, so I have a question for Rich.
And we talked about just flip-flop on the two, because
Yeah.
the
Well-
expenses was, it's really the consultant, is what we been hearing.
It is the
Why don't we
consultant.
Just put it in the consultant bucket and put the 2,500 consultant bucket in next.
Yeah, that should be swapped.
Yeah, so can you reflect?
It's the same number.
Yeah, this is reflecting what was submitted by the assessors.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so they
flipping it,
had
there's
it
no
had
problem.
it backwards.
Yeah, flipping it is no problem.
Yeah, we just need to flip.
Yeah, we just need to flip. Okay, continue. I just wanted to make sure.
Well, the other thing I would recommend if we're looking for a place to cut, right, is that FY '24 was a non-revaluation year.
Correct.
Okay? A 20% increase on that would be, and I'm trying to do math in my head, so that would be $1,600. That would be 6,900, call it 7 grand instead of 10. So I would go 7 grand on that line instead of 10, if the assessors are okay with that. It's a 20% increase from 2024.
We cut quite a bit out of that board. We do not recommend that.
Okay.
We cut out of that budget a significant amount. Holly, do you remember the amount? It was significant that we.
Well, what were our actuals, though?
Well, you also have to reflect that in fiscal year '24, that's Al was still receiving full pay.
But then also Roy had not done, a consultant had not done a lot of the inspections at that point. So it's going to look like it's skewed based on what's been spent up to now versus the rest of the year, because they're in the process of doing a lot of inspections. So we don't recommend. I think we cut that budget by $19,000, if I remember right.
Okay, so of this year, so the FY '25 budget for, I assume we're talking the expensive line, the 31,003, right? And
Yes.
The 10,000 is
Yep.
the line?
Yep.
Yep.
So there's already been a massive decrease in that whole.
That's correct.
Right, and
Yes,
that's
so
been stable.
Yeah.
I don't recommend cutting it anymore.
Yeah, no, and we're not changing that.
Okay, I was just asking, because if I was going off of what had been spent in 2024 and was doing the increase from there, because it's a like-to-like year versus a revaluation year, then, and especially where the net activity this year against that line item has only been $2,000.
But again, the inspections hadn't been done and the billing hasn't been billed, but it's in the process, right, Holly?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so there's a lot of billing
Yes.
coming in?
300 inspections going on
Yeah.
right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. What's the average fee per inspection?
I don't remember because they all varied, but although we do have that in the contract, but I don't have it off the top of my head.
Okay, because, and I'm just, I'm just asking the question, right? Especially if it is a contraction value, we can probably estimate where we're going to land, and this is on a much bigger year. So maybe I'm being over-aggressive, but there might be a little bit of room there, so.
Knowing that we took out 19,000 at our meeting, I think I would feel comfortable leaving what's in there, and if there's money to give back next year, we'll be certainly willing to give it back.
Yeah, again, not to speed up the process, but I still think we will go through it, but I'm still thinking that we need the highway as a.
That's fine, we can keep
we'll
going.
get-
Yeah,
we'll get there.
we'll get there. I just didn't want to overlook that.
And I welcome the discussion, but I know if we'll both start on, a little bit of, we go through each line item.
Maybe we will be here till 11.
That's what, yeah.
I won't be.
No, once it's 3 o'clock, then it's tough, yeah.
You do.
He has a 1 hour meeting.
Okay, so moving down to treasurers, you can see a couple things there that stick, or actually 3 things. One is the assistant treasurer wage has been zeroed out. In discussions with Sharon, she believed that it was not necessary. She didn't see the need for it, and she said she would not be pursuing that this year, so she was comfortable zeroing that out. Unfortunately, the OPEB assessment is due this year, thus the $55,000, and also a treasurer certification stipend, which is new, but the town has accepted the Mass General Law in which to provide that stipend for certified treasurers. So Sharon is taking advantage of that, as she has every right to. Next, down to collectors, the only item there is really a fairly significant increase in postage, and that's just reflective of the rates and
Increase in
of
postage.
actuals.
You
Then,
might want to mention that in that one meeting, we did basically eliminate 2 clerk positions.
correct, yep.
The treasurer and then the collector situation, and that was been a sticking point, but we just felt that it wasn't necessary at this moment.
Correct, and one of the things with the collector, you'll notice for their clerk, it was originally requested for the $1,500, but it was zeroed out after, once again, hearing from Sharon that she would volunteer to cover any absences for Brenda. She's obviously...
That's not how it's reflected on here, though. It's still showing $1,560 in the
as the request, but if you go over to the advisory committee, you'll
Oh,
see
I
that it's
see.
zeroed out.
Got it.
Yep.
Yep.
I have a
And-
question too. Did we figure out anything about the postage machine? Are we getting rid of the postage machine? What are we
Yeah.
doing about postage?
Yeah, well, the postage machine is no longer being used, so we're not getting any charges for that. However, I have not had the ability to go out and start shopping for postage machines. So it's possible it could come down, but
I thought we weren't going to do any postage machine.
Yeah,
Or
so
did
I
that
brought up-
change?
I guess I kind of brought it up. My thing was, is how are we going to pay for postage going forward? Like, are they, so is Brenda going to have to go to the post office and pay for postage and then get reimbursed?
I think she was buying the
If
pre-stamped
she buys in
envelope.
bulk?
Yeah,
she buys
Right.
it.
pre-stamped
Stamped
envelope.
envelopes.
Were they
Everybody's gonna buy-
pre-stamped envelopes? I
No,
feel
I
like-
don't think they were, to be honest.
No, so is everybody going to buy bulk then? Like, is the all board clerk going to have to buy bulk?
Mike has something.
So I guess what's the long-term solution for postage?
Mike has an answer.
Well, Brenda is just reverted back to getting, for billing, getting postage, with postage on the envelopes and paying for that out of the budget, out of the budget. In the
Yeah, but
same
how does she pay for it though?
Out of her expense account.
I get it out of her expense account, but how does she actually pay the post office? Is she?
No, it's not the necessarily,
It's a bill.
it's,
You can
You
order
billed.
these online now,
Yeah.
and
And
then
then
the
she gets
post
an
office
invoice.
sends you the checks. And for the other departments, we're just reverting back to buying our own stamps. Basically, what we do is we get a check for postage. In my case, that's what I do. If I order two.
yeah, you just ask them to cut a check.
It comes out of the
Okay, perfect,
expense.
okay.
And that's how it was appropriated with, when we had the postage machine. The former treasurer would just apply it to every time we use the
Yeah.
postage based on our code. and she
Yeah, based on the
deducted
code, yeah, I
from
just didn't want them
expense
to get reimbursed, like have to go down to the post office, get paid, and then get reimbursed. That makes sense.
Mike, what class is our Brookfield class 1, class 2, class 3?
I think we just personally pay the going rate of 73 cents per mailing. For me, with elections, it's 84 cents when I send out a ballot for biannual elections.
Okay, that's still class 1, you're just talking 73 cents.
Yes, class 1, I would say.
I mean, we could go class 3 here in Brookfield, and it'd still get delivered the same day. I just don't know why we don't get a cheaper class when we buy postage.
I don't have the answer to that. I just know that we did have some problems with the postage machine. We discussed this in the department head meeting many months ago, and it was determined that this wasn't a good deal for us.
No, I agree, it's not a good deal. I just wanted to make sure, like I said, that they didn't have to pay for it first and then get reimbursed later.
No, we submit a voucher.
Okay, all right, perfect.
Next?
Yeah, next.
Okay, continuing along, next, town clerk, as you can see, is level funded, elections level funded as well. So now moving along to page 3, you'll see there's some new expenses with regards to Conservation Commission. The $2,500 request is really to establish at least an account, if you will, in which conservation can draw from to reach out to a conservation agent from surrounding town so that we don't have to run into situations that we've recently run into where we have to start farming it out to other folks. We actually have our go-to consultant, for lack of a better term, and that's what the $2,500 is representing, is a pot of money in which is available to Concom. And also, when the $1,500 is for training for all of the Concom members. And as you can see, advisory.
Just for 3.
Well, for 3, that's, I shouldn't say all of them.
To start training them all.
Correct.
Yeah, so the training gets 8 classes for 3 people to get their fundamental certificate in the wetland section.
Okay, planning board, zone of, the ZBA, level funded, town hall is also level funded, printing town report, town is level funded, and municipal heating is also level funded. So that brings us to the general government, which as you can see is a very small increase year over year. Now moving on to Jeff's favorite, now we can start to hit some of these heavy hitters. With the police budget, you'll notice that there's a significant increase with regards to full-time wages. Part of that is just contractual with the contract that we signed last year with the police union, but it also reflects with the new hire down at the police department. Originally, what was budgeted was a new hire coming in, bottom of the totem pole. Fortunately, unfortunately, depending on your perspective, the officer that the chief is hiring is very experienced and also has a master's degree. So he's coming in towards the top end. As such, it was an additional $23,000 that had to be added to the wage account to account for this new experienced officer. So the advisory committee, and guys correct me if I'm wrong, indicated they had no problem necessarily with that hire. It made perfect sense. However, they were, I guess, hesitant to increase, just blanketly increase the police budget for that $23,000. And the rationale being, now with the police having a full staff, that overtime could be reduced, since the opportunities for overtime should be reduced, pending injured on duty or things along those lines. So as you can see, if you go down to part-time and overtime, you'll notice that instead of the $46,000 that the chief had requested, advisory has approved a little over $23,000.
I do have a question about that. Did we do the math based off of, I can't remember how many days exposure risk we had for them going to that 4x2 schedule relative to even if they're at full staff?
No, we kept the budget level funded.
Okay, so you basically just said, we're going to level fund the budget, here's the math.
And if you want to have it in full-time wage versus part-time, that's okay.
Oh, there is no part-time wage.
No.
But part-time and overtime is the same budget. Part-time,
okay.
I mean, it's
All right, I
labeled
guess.
part-time.
Not in Massachusetts.
I'm saying.
Yep.
So the original budget request was
Well, you dropped to 10. I thought it was 36.
yeah, whatever, yeah, we just went back to the original, we allowed the full-time to go up to accommodate the extra officer, but reduce the same amount from the part-time, full-time budget, that's all.
Correct.
Essentially level funding the original request.
Correct.
And whether that makes sense, or people logical or not.
So I understand the logic, and normally, under normal circumstances, I would actually totally agree with your logic, to be frank with you. The concern that I have, do you remember, do we still have the math that Tom did about what the overtime exposure was? I want to say it was like a potential for up to 17 days of overtime driven by.
Right.
Does that sound
Yeah,
familiar
that's
to
right.
you?
Yeah.
Okay.
But the difference is, when we talked about, and we agreed to the contract, was we also talked about that there were going to be a lot of shifts with two-person shifts. And in this particular case, when they've not had the full-time staff, they've been able to run it mostly with a one-officer shift. So when we agreed to that 4 and 2, we also agreed that if they needed to not run a two-person shift, that they would be willing to do that. Am I right, Ron?
Correct, yeah, and I believe that,
And that would help with the overtime.
yeah, and there was some concern about the language in the contract, more or less forcing the chief to utilize a two-person shift, and I believe that was struck or amended so that it wasn't required.
But you know what? I think let's leave it lay the way that y'all did it. Is looking at how they've spent through this year, and they've been on that 4-2 for
It's been quite a
Basically
while.
the whole year,
most of the
because we
year.
went back.
Yeah,
Correct.
about most of the year.
Yeah, but we went back.
And right
back
now-
there. Right.
And right now, in spite of being short an officer,
Well, they've been short too.
yeah, but even with being short too, they are still trending behind, not just in wages, but in overtime. So if they're fully staffed, it seems, and if we size the fully staffed salary to how many people we think we have at the right salaries for what they're getting.
Which the
that makes-
chief is confident in that.
Yeah, I was
wage
gonna
number.
say, that's actually, that's a good number. Okay. I just wanted to talk myself into it. That's all. So when somebody else comes up with the same bright idea I did, that I got an answer for them. So,
Okay, so next one down is the fire department, and here we do have several variations of advisory committee approved and the requested amount. First one is the fire wages. As you can see, the chief has requested almost $89,000, and the advisory committee had approved almost $74,000. And the rationale behind that, and once again, correct me if I'm wrong, is the training, which currently occurs basically once per week. The average, I guess, throughout the state is more like, and as far as state requirements, certainly does not exceed 2 times per month. So the theory behind reducing it from the 89 to the 74 is we can reduce some of that training. So in other words, instead of doing.
We just did some raw math that said, okay, if you got X number of people, and with 6 people, $20 an hour, 4 hours times 52 weeks, well, and so we just took out 3/4 of it, if you go from once a week to once a month. Now, we don't have any logic behind whether it should go once a week to once a month, because we don't have a clue.
well, I was gonna say,
Right, no,
that does-
right,
yeah.
but it was just a place where, hey, is that something that could be done or couldn't be done? And we didn't know if it could or couldn't. We said, hey, we can find a bunch of money here to help the budget. So if it doesn't make sense, and the police chief and others think, well, that's crazy, I need at least 2 or 3, whatever it is, and everyone thinks, okay, well, that's better, well, that's okay. But it was just a matter of where can we do it, and that was something because somewhere, I think, Brian, someone mentioned that other people only do it once a month.
Yeah, it was,
Yeah,
it
once
was
or
my
twice a
idea, and only reason why I did it is because we were looking for a place to cut, and that was the only idea was the training. You can't cut, I guess, so the goal for the wages is to be, for the wages to go to for them being on call. So training is the only kind of way.
And we
that I-
still have a
So
overall increase.
I'm gonna tell you, I.
And I'm not sold on it
I have
either.
a question for you, Beth,
And I'm
before
not
you.
sold on it either. I heard some concerns from Damien about, he goes every week, he's learning, so.
Yeah,
So
I gotta.
Beth, can I interrupt for 1 second? Can you tell me what we've expended in
Yeah,
that
yeah.
account
Yeah,
right now? So
yeah.
let's look at that before we even
Yeah.
get too hot and heavy on
So
this.
then I thought maybe, and then also it's like, how many hours are they training? Could
Which
they
one,
cut in an
wages?
hour and do
Yeah.
Yeah,
4?
well, so last year for
We're
fiscal,
almost already expended,
Yeah, 92.
They're 92% expended.
92.3.
but they had a lot of calls through the fall and stuff like that.
so then, so in
They're
fiscal,
training every week still, so-
Right.
in fiscal '25, it was at 69,000. So even though the advisory board made a cut of what he requested, it's still a $4,000, almost a $5,000 increase. So when you look at those numbers, it's a $5,000 increase year over year, but so the cut is really just an imaginary number that Peter probably put in just to feel comfortable, so it's not really cutting any hours
Yeah, but
or
no,
training.
yeah, actually it is. And
How do you-
so first of all, it is.
Okay.
Right, because the logic was, they had just shared with us that the logic was based on cutting training. And let's actually do the math here, okay? So we're at, today is basically end of April, so we've got May and June left, correct?
Yeah.
Am I doing my math correctly?
Yeah.
Okay, so,
It's been 92 for 10 months.
so it's 63,842, right? Or I could do the math that way, but let me just pull up the calculator, because I'm tired enough that, and have done way too much math already today.
It's kind of a crazy number, just because
It is.
you don't know what they're gonna,
Well, so first of
they
all,
could end up getting not really any.
Training,
Right.
not really anything.
Yeah.
Right, well, but here's the thing, okay? And this is a personal bias of mine, okay? But one of the, like, quotes from being in the military is you sweat in peacetime so you don't bleed in wartime,
I agree.
okay? So it terrifies me to say we think it's a good idea to cut the training on somebody who may have to come into a burning house and save somebody to 25% of what they're doing today. I can tell you right now, if I have to get away from the front table and go stand in the back of town meeting, I will probably fight y'all on that one,
So-
without even talking to chief, and I haven't talked to the chief about it.
But let's look at the numbers. Do we really need the increase? And I'm not suggesting that we do a cut, but if last year's budget was just under 70,000, and we're jumping up to 89,000.
So our actual spend this year, right, is trending to 76,610.
Okay. And they're at
I'm not,
75.
they're at 73, well, 74.
73,992,
They're
so, yeah,
74.
yeah.
Okay. So I guess what you're saying is level funding, but we're not gonna dictate how he spends that budget. If he
No,
wants to
no.
train,
Right.
If he wants to
Yeah.
keep doing his training. he
and
wants
if they do their training and it's the training money that pushes them over, then we need to go find that money from some other budget towards the end of
Yeah.
next year.
And
Here's a couple of numbers to consider. Comparing the fiscal year 26 request to fiscal year 24, chief salary, the proposed increase is 75%. Wages, over 50%. Is the fire department doing 50% more work than they were doing in 2024?
Say that one more
Look
time.
at the increase in the costs.
The wages are going up 50% over 2 years. Are they doing 50% more work?
No, they had more calls.
Well, I did talk to the
Yeah.
chief just today, and trending for this particular calendar year is trending almost exactly to what it was for last year, if you extrapolate it out.
And Beth, you said that based on spend to date and adding 2 more
So
months.
it'd be
they're gonna
70.
Probably spend 75,000.
I'd say no, it's gonna come out to be about 76,000, 77, actually, 76,610 if you want to get exact, at least according to my calculator.
So 77 grand is what it's gonna be.
Yeah.
Even though
Like, I'd be down with 77,
I think
because that would
that's
be.
a pretty good compromise, really,
Because that'd be level setting.
Yeah, because looking at the past fiscal years, the 26 is quite a jump. And the advisory board cut it back quite a bit, but not when you compare it to the fiscal 25 budget, right? So it's still,
73 based off, we just guessed 5 people showing up, and we kind of went off the training.
Yeah, I would just go with their spend right now, and that's
Yeah, I think
functioning
that's-
level spend.
yeah,
That's
because I
functioning
don't want to
level.
take away any training from the
No.
fire department.
No.
So I guess maybe what I don't recall, folks, is why was there such an increase from the 69,160 to the 88,9 from
I don't know, because I asked him to do, remember last year he gave us the sheet that said like how many
Yeah, how many
calls.
calls,
Yeah, and we
it's on
asked
the
him for it
big
again
figures,
this year, yeah, and I don't know, did he ever give it to you?
No, I know just from talking to him today, the calls are running approximately 200 last year and this year.
Yeah, but prior to that, it was less, I think.
Yeah, I think last year was a significant jump.
It's a big
from-
jump.
Well, if you got through fiscal '24 with 58,000, right? So it was obviously significantly less.
Well, that was the budget. We don't know if he actually got through it.
I don't really recall him asking
He had
for
about
more.
6K.
Slightly.
If I remember, 6K, I think.
Budget-wise?
I mean, I couldn't swear to it in a
remember
court of law, but
correctly. Might
Lori
have
said
been
he
four.
generally
Yeah, it
runs.
wasn't
It was
a
roughly
lot.
60.
Yeah. I think that's a pretty good compromise at
Yeah.
the 77.
Yeah, and remember, there's also pay increases that are going on because there was a state law change back, oh Lord, when was it? I know when we changed the minimum wage in Massachusetts, it actually impacted our firefighters because we were paying below what that initial minimum wage was when they started to say it applied to emergency workers. So some of that budget raise that you're seeing right now is actually probably also driven by that.
The hourly wage.
Yeah, the hourly rates. So, but I'd be down with 77. That would mean that nobody's making any judgments about changing the training regime.
Well, I got a question here. Marty, have you gone back and looked at the budgets in the previous years? I just want to give you folks a little reminder of what happened. You're looking at a number here for the fire wages of $58,710 for the FY24 budget. 2 or 3 years prior to that, that budget was around $30,000. Pete came in, made an increase of $20,000. I asked him directly, why are you increasing that budget by that much? And what he told me was like having an extra guy, being able to pay an extra guy. But if you look at that historical,
No, that's the paramedic.
no, those are 2 separate budgets.
The extra guy was the paramedic.
I want you to look back at those wages.
No, I remember.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
I am going to correct you because I think you are wrong. Because what he came in and did is they used to only pay for training and they didn't pay for calls. And it was 3 or 4 years ago.
Let's let
And
him
it was-
speak and then.
Okay,
and
go
then-
ahead.
So what I want to do is, it's only more recently that we paid for training.
No, it's the other way around.
I don't think so. Well, I want somebody to get me some answers on that. Because it was my understanding that training previously, up until that $20,000 increase in that budget, training was voluntary. It was voluntary for people to come every Monday night. It's only more recent that they've been paid. And if that's the
That's
case,
backwards.
that's why we're seeing the increase here with some extra calls. There was a number of brush fires last year.
No, so the way I recall it, and I was on advisory for like 6 years before I was on this board, Mike. They were paying for training, they weren't paying for calls. And it was, I think 5 years ago, something like that, we started paying for calls as well as for training. I mean, you can have people look into it all day long, but that's what you're gonna find when you look into
So
it.
you're telling me they were paying for training, but
But
they were
not paying for calls.
Because we were known, and we're still known today.
As a
the call
volunteer.
Fire department.
Yeah.
We're a call fire department. It's my understanding it's the other way around. If we can get some clarification, that would be great.
So,
But that was my understanding, and that's where we've seen the increase, is training.
so.
50% increase over 2 years is unsustainable.
So we also went from paying them like $8 an hour to $15 an hour when the minimum wage went up.
I'm just saying from the dollar.
Was that 3
I'll
years
say
ago?
3, I would
I
agree
want to
with you
say
on
about
that.
3 years ago?
Yeah, and
Because
I wasn't aware of
the
why
only,
that increased.
the
That would make sense.
only employees in town that were impacted by the change in the minimum wage in the state of Massachusetts was actually fire. We were paying them less than what the minimum wage got set at. So that's a big piece of it. So it's not sustainable, it's not gonna double every year, because that big jump came from the fact that we were paying them below what the state minimum wage was. So,
The jump from 58.7 to 69.
yeah, a big piece of that was driven by almost a 25%
That
increase
could
in
have been
wages.
the,
Yeah. Yeah, because I know that caused all kinds of hijinks,
We have to have a unit minimum anyway.
so.
We're we're strategizing.
That's cool. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm just trying, it's okay. And I'm just trying to give y'all I'm trying to give you all the history, right? And I'm
No,
trying to.
I agree with the 77 grand. And like I said, my goal isn't to cut the training, but it's not that I want to or cut the call.
I'm just telling you, I will never sit on, you will never get my vote to direct anyone to lower the level of training for somebody who's in
I get it.
that type of public safety.
I get it.
Okay?
Well, can I make a suggestion? Why don't y'all go with the advisory board recommendation, 73K? If you have to deficit spend because there's a huge, amount of fires this year.
Well, that's what I was figuring. If you keep it to 73,
You're gonna
you're just going to
deficit spend it.
deficit spend it.
Yeah,
It's
but
kind of irrelevant.
I do like trying to get it right from the get-go.
Right,
Yeah.
so, so no matter what happens.
For all intents and purposes, it's $4,000, right?
Yeah.
So this is,
Yeah, me too, yeah.
Because then
problem
you're
with-
level funding the wages.
yeah, the problem with this is then we're not going the right way to get the added wages, but I think either way, I'm good with it. I think 77 is,
Yeah.
I would like to see I know we have a lot of young firefighters, and I agree with having the training. but-
Yeah.
So again, though, you're going to be looking at where do you find the money to do your proposed wage for the other employees? We're seeing significant increases here in one department, where on the other end, we're looking to reduce that. So there's, where's the fairness in that? So you got to find the money somewhere.
I've got the scorecard here, Mike. That's why
I was looking, Jeff.
we're strategizing. We don't have to, we're not.
And-
Unfortunately, we went by the
and-
clerk's salary, so, no. I'm kidding.
Well, and plus, that town clerk got such a huge raise from what got proposed on the floor the other year that you shouldn't even be worried about it, right? So that's really fair to the rest of the town too, right? That's hugely fair to the rest of the town.
The other piece of
All right, let's keep it going.
Yeah.
Okay, and you know what, here's the thing, it's not the hill I'm gonna die on, so long as we're not tagging a policy recommendation to it.
No.
Do you understand what I'm saying? If we want to, for budget purposes, leave it at your 73,
Yeah.
and with us all eyes wide open, knowing we might have to deficit
Well, I mean,
spend,
can
I'm
we-
not
can we
gonna,
put a little check
check mark
and
on
then
it.
go through everything else and see
Sure.
if we need it, we need it, if we
Absolutely.
don't.
absolutely.
Because if I die on the hill with a highway, then I don't know what we're gonna do.
Fair enough, gotcha. All right.
So the other one?
Yep, I was going to say, now moving along for fire chief salary.
Yeah.
The advisory committee has actually recommended to level fund versus fiscal year '25 instead of doing the $3,000 increase. And I believe the rationale there was, if you notice, there was approximately a $6,000 increase from FY '24 to '25, which was obviously a significant percentage. And the feeling from the advisory committee was the $18,000, just even spread over 2 years, that's still a significant increase in the chief's salary. And then, other than that, there was the fixed asset repair and replace. And you can see advisory has approved $20,000 versus a requested $32,000. And the rationale there was the chief evidently significantly has 3, 4, multiple warrant articles each year, utilizing free cash to, in essence, address repair and replacement for equipment. So if he continues that, the advisory committee believes that the $20,000 is probably sufficient.
We need some clarification too. We want to know if the fire chief's salary is a stipend or if he gets COLA.
From what I've heard, and granted, I haven't even been here a year, it was a stipend.
Is it considered a stipend, so no COLA would be added?
Generally, stipends are not eligible for COLA, correct?
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I think we had that discussion in previous years, and I think it might be mislabeled here because it is fire chief salary, but again, that was something we had a question on, I forgot to ask.
Yeah, in talking to
So I mean,
Lori,
the bulk of his salary comes from the EMT position, which
Correct.
would be COLA related, right? I mean, he would get the COLA in it, so.
absolutely.
Because what was what we understood when it was presented to us a few years ago, that it was basically, an administrative and paperwork sort of situation, which was basically we thought a stipend.
And that's how it was described to me by the town
I'm
council.
sorry. Are you saying that the role of fire chief is a paperwork-based position?
the stipend that was allocated to him was for administrative work. I mean, he has his work that he's doing as a fire chief going out and everything else, but he's getting paid through the EMS also, or no? He's getting,
No, he gets a stipend for being, the fire chief's salary is a stipend no matter what. And then if he goes to a call, he gets paid as a firefighter.
Firefighter.
Or EMT.
Or EMT, yeah.
Right.
You need to look into that. I don't believe he's taking an hourly wage for fire calls. I think he does for paramedic. I don't believe he's
I
double
think
dipping.
you always have to have a paramedic on a fire call. I think basically for like.
Well, any fire call, he's going to go as as the fire chief would be my gut feeling.
Yeah, so,
Double qualified.
well, he's double qualified, but he may not be getting compensated that way, so
Well, he
fundamentally,
can't be, yeah.
yeah.
I don't think he
So-
would put in, I don't think he would ever put in.
Yeah, so,
That's a quick and simple check with
Okay.
Sharon and Lori. Okay, so that brings us to the conclusion of the fire department. With EMS, obviously, this is the first year in which Donna and Chief Martell have brought this before the board, or actually before the select board and the advisory committee. And as you can see, the advisory committee has voted to approve what was submitted, and that has a lot to do with the fact that we really have nothing to base it off of. And frankly, even Donna and Chief Martell had indicated that, you know, this is just something we're going to have to keep an eye on moving forward. So my personal
So
feeling...
they must have records of their past years, no?
Correct, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And these, the numbers, this is the first time it's broken down this way. Before it was always just a lump sum.
Okay.
And my personal feeling is next year at this time, these numbers will mean a lot more because we'll have a full year of actuals. So next,
What did EMS take in for revenue?
that's the 340,000, I believe, that Lori had indicated on the local receipt side.
But we also identified a challenge with not getting
Collecting.
full reimbursement for all the calls.
Right.
Correct, this and that, which somewhere, somehow has to be addressed.
So it's pretty, it's not much off from that 340, it's fairly close, It's slightly over, but just quick math, but
Yeah, those are logic, just saying,
Yeah.
350 is probably.
I think it's a fair way
You had
to,
increasing calls too.
like Ron said, it's a fair way to start and just move forward and make adjustments as we go.
It's reasonable and it's supportable as presented. Next is telephone contract, that's just level funded. Building inspector is level funded. Gas, plumbing, wiring, all level funded. Zone ZBA, or excuse me, ZEO, level funded. The emergency management agent went up slightly. And the animal control officer, you'll notice there was a slight increase in the salary for the ACO as well as the assistant ACO. And that was predicated on a salary survey I had Karen do. She called several of the surrounding towns, and we were significantly underpaying. And quite frankly, our current ACO, Deb, has done a phenomenal job, and I wanted to be able to recognize that. Parking ticket level funded, tree warden expenses. Now that one, you'll notice it went from the 15,000 previously to 1,000, and the reason behind that,
because we still have the article money, because we haven't been able to spend it all.
bingo, give that lady a
And I
creepy
think
doll.
our current highway folks will probably be able to do more work.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, so the thought,
You were the tree warden at one point, weren't you, I think, a few years ago? Or
No.
2 days?
I think for like 2 months.
2 months.
For like 2 months, I was the tree warden.
What is the amount of money left in that article for the?
60,000 has not been
No,
touched.
I saw 54.
Oh, 50, oh, well, that sounds
Yeah.
like then they are starting to pull from it then.
And I notice there's only a couple small areas of town that need additional tree work, so they did a fair amount this winter,
Yeah.
I
even
think
though we had
there's
stopped
still a lot
for a
of
while.
trees, I think.
I don't think there's that many, there's less than you think. I went over it with Kyle the other day. There's a little bit on Quabog Street, there's a little bit down at the cemetery.
Yeah, I was gonna say cemetery.
We still need to have more of a discussion on how we're gonna handle that cemetery trees, but
Yeah.
Allen Road was done, Long Hill Road was done, Molasses Hill Road was done. A lot of the roads got done with that 15,000 with the participation of the highway department.
Yeah.
Okay, and then just Shade Tree was level funded. So you can see the advisory committee is recommending approximately a $53,000 cut versus the requested amount for public safety. Moving on to schools, as previously noted, there was an increase there of 2.7%, and unfortunately, it is what it is. Now, Public Works. Now, with this one, there's a few highlights here. One is obviously the superintendent wage. You see an increase there. That's per the offer. And also of note is, once again, through the offer to Kyle, he is eligible for a COLA on July 1. And next one down is the highway operator wages. And you'll notice that even though it was requested at $165,000, advisory has voted to approve $135,000. And that $30,000 reduction, even with the $30,000 reduction, the feeling there is that would be able to pay for full-time operator 1, full-time operator 2, and also accommodate a part-time position. And once again, that still fits within the $135,000. The other thing that you'll note is the seasonal worker has gone up from $10,000 to $25,000. I think this is where Jeff was leaning towards. And with that, the thought process was this would allow Kyle to hire more seasonal workers, say for mowing of lawns, so that we can have the cheaper labor out mowing the grass pretty much 100% versus having the skilled laborers do that.
Yep. The only thing is, and I meant to connect with him yesterday or this morning and missed him, or missed him from a standpoint of I had to take some other job calls first thing in the morning. So I know generally speaking, he's expressed a preference for full-time versus the part-time help where he can, to get the stability of knowing who he's going to have when he's going to have them. So I guess my question would be did we have dialogue directly with him around department structure or not? If you did, that's great.
So I did. So he just informed me yesterday that Ernie, our part-time seasonal worker, will be staying on for the entire summer. Ernie brought a neighbor that's almost Ernie's age, and he's expressed interest in working with Ernie for the lowest of the
Like
seasonal.
the lawn mowing type stuff.
all of the road potholes, mowing, things of that nature. So he told me yesterday that he's going to have 2 part-timers that are extremely reliable. The only thing that I want to point out with this is the amount of hours that Kyle is using Ernie is we have to be careful about going over that 19 hours a week, and I know
Well, he gets capped out anyways for the year.
No, Ernie's been working an extremely amount of hours based on.
But I thought he could only work like 1,000 hours or something.
I don't think that's so with Ernie, but I don't know if he'd want to take the benefits, but I think we're going to be in a situation where he's going to be entitled to them. If not now, pretty soon. So we'll just have to be mindful of that. And I think this is not quite what the Highway Advisory Committee submitted for 2 seasonal workers, but based on the amount of work that we have down there, I think it's a great strategy going forward.
And what I can certainly do is I'll have Sharon and Lori both put Ernie on the watch so that we can keep an eye on the hours worked. And obviously give Kyle a heads up if he's starting to approach that.
But I can't say enough good about Ernie. He filled in for Kyle while Kyle was away. He
No, he works.
He's a worker.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think that's a great strategy, what you guys did for the seasonal worker. Because Brad's point prior was we had a foreman making $33 an hour plus mowing
Cutting grass.
lawns. And we're not going to be in that situation with the 2 seasonal workers.
All right, so, but you think the 25 is good for the 2
I
seasonal
do.
workers?
Yeah.
All right. So then,
Beth, did you run the numbers? I saw your phone going. Were you doing calculations on that?
Well, I was looking at what was spent so far this year, and I know what our staffing levels were, right? I'm starting to try to do some math,
Yeah,
yes.
okay, okay.
See, it is actually town stuff on the phone.
No, I believe you, but I know you were doing the numbers, so are you
Yeah.
okay with it? I'm not-
I tell you what, let's do this. I'm okay-ish with it, and let's move on.
Okay.
Because what I want to do is, I agree, it's a potential risk point. Like Jeff, like you said, you didn't want to die on the highway, or you didn't know if you were going to die on the highway hill.
right, I wasn't sure if that was 1 or 2 seasonal workers, so that's why
Yeah.
I'm saying maybe there's something that could be cut.
Yeah, so
If you look at the past budget at a 10,000,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So while one seasonal worker was working, we had a $33 an hour employee working with that person, taking care of the lawns. And at some point, when we had lesser personnel, we had a lower rate person.
Yeah,
But to keep the construction we're gonna do now with Kyle, to have these part-time workers like this, I think is the biggest bang for the buck.
And so far, we've spent, just to give you an idea, and I can see where he got his numbers from for the submission, we've spent 10 months, we've spent $19,500, right? Well, you're looking at the same thing I am right now, right? So that 25 is functionally forecasting out another 2 months at that same run rate.
The connection raising that was because we dropped the wages by 35.
Yeah, we had no full-time employees, right?
Yeah.
So that's,
Yeah.
so now if we,
As long as we're all comfortable with that, that's a big number, right?
yeah.
Yeah, so, and that big number would wind up being, so we now currently have the mechanic, right? And do we have the second operator yet?
No, no, we
Not technically.
Not technically.
No, we have someone that's willing to come help us, a previous employee willing to come help us
That's a
do
decent
mowing and
number of
catch
hours.
basing.
Yeah.
Not Bruce Clark, someone different.
Okay.
Are you aware of who it is?
Ben?
Ben is.
I
Oh, okay.
recommended that he go after him. I
okay.
didn't know how successful
Well,
he
Ben
was.
called me and asked me if there would be a part-time position for him, and I called Kyle right away. I said, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, I had told Kyle
He's willing
to
to work
reach
a
out to
couple
him.
days a week doing
So-
mowing
But I think
and
the
catch
intention
basing.
is to get him up to,
Yeah, that would be perfect,
Yeah.
and he's really good with that mower,
Yeah.
that roadside
Yeah.
mower, he became like the master of that thing.
yeah.
So we can move
So-
on to that, move on.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so that's it for highway. And just to confirm, the hybrid highway office administrative assistant and grant writer have been split 50/50.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, snow and ice wages, for obvious reasons, we level funded that. Cemetery wages, that is also level funded. And as you can see from Public Works, we did have, a slight increase, but with the $30,000 reduction, that helps bring it closer to that magic 2.5 number.
Yep.
Okay, Board of Health is also well, I can't say level funded because the Board of Health agent is now, it's through the, I believe,
Outsourced.
Lester.
Yep.
And so it's no longer in the operational cost here. Transfer station, once again, that's also level funded. You'll notice on Council on Aging, there's slight increases. One is for the director, and that's just so that she can monitor the additional programs that they're offering. And the expenses is also reflective of that. They're just increasing their offerings. They've been very, very popular. And then for Veterans Agent, that's also level funded. So once again, minuscule increase for health, sanitation, and special services. Culture and recreation is also level funded, or our cultural council, I should say. Recreation has had a slight increase, and this is due to the treatments of the fields. They utilize True Green to treat the fields. And the rationale behind that is with all the money that was put in with the grants and all the work that was put in down there, they wanted to stay on top
Did
of
we
it.
skip over to library?
Oh, did I skip library?
Skipped over to library.
Oh, we went right over
And I
to
wanted,
library.
and I wanted to talk about that, because we're gonna have to be careful about something. So we're taking the electricity out with the library utilities coming out and going into the central things.
Correct.
We're gonna have to check with somebody that knows state law, because there's special rules about the amount of money that goes to library operational spending. However, I have a replacement for that line item, and we may be able to figure out exactly how it works, is that my understanding is there's a gap in how we've been managing our technology at the library, and that we need to take a look at potentially including them in our technology budget. But what I would recommend is have them have their own technology line item, even if it means they pay a portion of the contract from their funding, so that their expenses are covered by their budget, but it's part of the operational expenses, so that we meet the state formula for what we're supposed to spend on our library.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, I can certainly.
So we need to be very careful about what we do with the line items there.
If that occurs, all that means is that it becomes a line item in the library, but it gets reduced.
From the, exactly. It's a net zero.
smoke
I'm not
and
saying
mirrors,
it's an
yeah.
increase, but what I'm saying is, in place of library utilities, we need to add a line that says library technology services.
Yeah.
Okay? And at least fund it at least the level that used to be the electricity, maybe a little higher.
Sure.
And that would be their portion of our technology contract. And unfortunately, Lori's just gonna have to deal with two charge numbers for the bill.
But that increases the expenses, which is going to increase our
No,
committed
no,
requirements.
no,
No,
it's
it's just
not.
coming
We're gonna
from a
take it
different
out of-
line
We're gonna
item.
take it out of the technology, we're gonna take it out of the technology budget. Go back to the first page, on the $80,000 line that we have for the technology, take it down $1,500 or $2,000, put it in as a library technology budget. It's a zero-sum game.
No, it's increasing the amount of expenses that the library is making. It's the library expenses that determine how much we have to make in compensatory spending for periodicals. So you're increasing it.
If you don't hit it, if
Last
you don't hit a threshold, if you don't hit an operational budget threshold of commitment
You get in
to that
trouble.
library line, we lose all of the state funding that's associated with our libraries, which is a big amount of money compared to what I am talking about putting as that line item on the technology line.
What money do we get from library?
We get a lot of state aid.
There's
A huge amount of our state aid
there's
comes from
state aid
the
that-
library.
that's
So you find the
specific to
1,500, it's zero right now.
That's zeroed out. We're-
Taking 1,500 from the technology and putting 1,500 here.
Yeah, and change the title of that account to library technology.
So I have one other question on this. For the library director wage, she's a contract employee, right? So she's already got her wage built in. So what is her contract? Because that would be up, I'm guessing, at least a couple $1,000s based on fiscal '24.
Yeah, I did get, she actually printed off a copy of her, or at least that segment of her contract, and it's specifically tied to the town COLA.
So whatever we do for the rest of the town, she'll get.
I thought she had her own contract.
Yeah, I
similar to
thought
the
she-
police.
Yeah, she does have her own contract,
But
but
it's
it was,
tied
But
to,
it-
yeah, within the
COLA's tied
last
to the
couple
town.
years or so, she had indicated that the trustees amended her contract, or the base contract, for COLA to be tied to the town.
okay, so then so whatever the quote is, okay.
Yeah, so it makes the math easy.
Sure.
And the other thing,
What was Lori about that as far as it's included in the front page number with the COLA?
yes, that's all
Yeah.
part of the state aid, yeah. The other main thing is we would lose CW Mars access, which
Yeah.
is huge. for
Yeah, which is all the free.
Yeah, so the CW Mars, which is kind of their version of the
Blending.
internet.
That's probably what we use in our,
We would lose access to that if we didn't meet the required spending.
all the kids are on their Kindle.
That's how you do most of the.
Yeah, library loans, their emails, server, all that.
Yeah, so we just have to, we need to massage whatever we need to massage to be compliant with state law. Right? and if we need some line item to do it under, I think it's fair to do it under the technology so that we close that gap, and if we need it to cover the contract, we can.
So we're in the home stretch here, folks. Okay, recreation, as I said, that's just True Green going up with the applications. Historical Commission, level funded. Memorial Day, level funded. Cultural Council expenses, level funded. And you can see, once again, a minimal increase in the total culture and recreation. Debt and interest, this is directly from Sharon's spreadsheet and what she's been tracking. And one thing of note, in fact, Jeff was, I guess, at least ruminating about whether or not we could pay off the Sawmill Dam loan. And
I didn't realize it was 2%.
yeah, so if the amount is $173,000, so we certainly have that available in free cash. Well, I guess good news, bad news, depending on your perspective, it's a 2% loan.
We're getting how much in our savings
I was going to
account?
say, so we're in an arbitrage situation where we're gaining
let
more
that
money
one.
on what's sitting in
What's sitting
stabilization.
in savings, yeah.
So that's something we want to do, although Sharon did give Jeff credit for thinking outside the box.
Yeah, well, I must say that she's the first time the treasurer has presented an actual listing of all of the loans outstanding, term, and all of that.
And percentage,
To
yeah.
us, it just, we went smoothly through the whole thing. We never had that access before for whatever reason, so. I can't thank her enough.
No, we have a great treasurer.
So as you notice, we actually have a $2.76 decrease year over year. So now next is assessments and other mandated expenses. The retirement account, as you can see, went up significantly, $88,000. Bad news is that's going to probably continue the next few years. Actually, I think it's statewide with all retirement systems. They're more or less behind, and they're in catch-up mode over the next several years. So we're probably going to be seeing a very similar increase next year and the year after.
Well, excuse me, I recall, I don't know, is the general insurance the one where you pay it monthly or
Correct,
you
yep.
get it?
Yeah, we always pay that
And this is the
July 1.
discounted amount that we're-
Yep, that's a discounted amount. So unemployment insurance, level funded, group health and life, if you notice, that actually is a $25,000 increase. If we wouldn't have switched to the Hampshire County Group Insurance Trust, that would have been, instead of a $25,000 decrease, that would have been about approximately $130,000 increase. Now, one thing to keep in mind is we're reaping the benefits this year, but next year, if insurance cost goes up 10%, we're gonna feel it here. So that's something to be cognizant of. Medicare, general insurance went up
Yeah,
slightly.
But if we had taken that hit this year, we would have just gotten a double hit in the following years. So
Absolutely, yeah, because
I'll
that
take a year.
compounds.
I'll take a year of a break off from that.
And then water department is level funded as well. And that, folks, is your FY26 budget.
So what was your math?
Well, we were going up,
How much did we go up?
so
4,000 with the fire, I think that was the only one, right?
Yeah.
That's the only one I had.
And I actually
And we
said
didn't
that
shave
if we
anything,
have to
but-
leave it at 73, so long as everyone's aware, eyes wide open, that we might have to deficit spend, and I don't
It
have a
was
problem.
73,990, so I'm sure we might have some of the 74.
But we talked about going up to 77, but, I mean, I'm
I think
with
you
Beth,
could go
I don't
either
want
way.
to cut,
Yeah.
you know,
I certainly am not directing anybody to lower their training.
right, no, and nor would I. Especially with the amount of younger firefighters.
You
that we
get
have.
one person hurt.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of older firefighters, but we have more younger ones.
Which is actually a good problem
Yeah,
to
it is,
have.
yeah.
It is.
Most
But-
on-call fire departments are aging out.
we're fine there, but I mean, I think
So I think we're largely aligned, right?
So Jeff, what did we end up cutting? Was it $4,000?
No, we didn't cut anything, we
didn't
added,
cut
Increase.
Oh,
We added
technically, we
4 grand
added.
technically.
Increase.
well,
Well, technically $3,000.
$3,008.
Yeah.
Not a big deal. So we're still sort of back to the COLA discussion, and you know, I think, I don't know, we could take a vote, but I think I would personally be in favor of increasing the COLA if we could find somewhere else to offset it, and I don't know what my members feel.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, right, I mean, the front sheet says, you know, we've got available 234,000.
Yeah.
We
What-
just added 4,000,
Yeah.
so we've got 230,000 bucks.
What I don't like about it is
Go to the levy limit if we don't have it.
What I don't like about it is the compound effect, right? Once we, you know, just a 0.5% in 10 years turns into several percent.
Right, no, I mean, I understand it, I'm trying to,
Because no one's going to go backwards with it, right?
yeah.
So,
I know we want to get consensus, but I'm just thinking, I know the members, and they sort of expressed informally, that we can find some money to offset between the 2 and 2.5, which is basically 9,000. I think we could get a positive vote, and then it's up to you guys whether you want to go for whatever number you want to go for. And again, we've always disagreed with the selectmen and
Well, let me just
the
look at,
advisory committee, although this year we were trying to do a united whatever.
so I guess one of my questions would be, let me just look at something real quick here.
Or if more revenues come in, if somebody gets adjusted on the other side, then, I don't know.
So I mean, my recommendation, even though it's something that typically has been, I want to say it's been one of our go-to places when we start doing municipal transfers, but anybody who plays the futures market right now is not betting that oil is going to be more expensive this year than it was last year. And we're only 43% spent on municipal heating fuel. We're only 66%
The one caveat
spent.
is the billing has been now, shall we say, inconsistent, and we
Okay.
are behind on that.
so is that, Beth, are you just looking at the heating bills, or is that?
I'm looking at
fuel
both fuel, municipal gasoline, and heating
Yeah,
fuel.
Because I
So
would be
the,
very cautious on touching any of that, because our trucks have not really
Been
run
using like,
like in
Well,
past
well,
years
fire
with the highway.
probably, fire probably
But I'm
has.
talking,
I'll mention that at
the highway department is going to be up significantly from where we were last year.
And the rationale for that is what?
They're going to do some
Didn't have
work.
enough.
No, we're going to get some work out of them versus we weren't getting work out of
Yeah, I
highway.
kind of want to see what they expended in '24
so
or
But
'23.
even then, they're not banner years.
Yeah, I agree with that.
When we start the project on Gay Road, we will have every truck down there, all our equipment, loaders, backhoe, sweeper, like,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I still think you could pull $9,000 out of those three budgets and,
well, then I'd rather save it on my taxes, Beth. That's, I'm a hard 2%, and because, just because we can go up 2.5 doesn't mean we have to.
Yeah, I've got a
And
note.
let me just throw another strategic, whatever,
What
out.
those limits and those requirements are, because she's
Normally
good
have
at
not
doing that
used
stuff.
the reserve fund except for unexpected things like legal expenses, who knows this coming year, but we could also think that plus the municipal transfers at the end of the year to sort of streak by. Not
so you
something that I would
go
recommend.
15 instead of 25? Go 15 instead of 25 on the reserve fund?
Well, we could vote that. I don't know, that's something, but I mean, if we're trying to find 10, it's either that or cut somewhere else out of a budget and then go to the reserve fund to place it at the end of the year if it's deficient. You know, either way, I don't know which would be a better approach. If you leave the fund the way it is at 25, then you still have the municipal transfer. If you keep it at 15, then if we get somehow stuck, then we're in a hard spot. Then
Every meeting I went,
we cut it from 35 to 25. We cut it to 15. Yeah.
every meeting I went to down there with you guys, I heard several times to talk about cutting, and maintaining and sticking with it. And I'm with you at the 2%, and now you guys are washing, so which is it?
I'm not watching, I'm just throwing it out for the group, because I know I have some consensus if we were able to find things to cut in the
That's
whole
whole
budget.
argument is justified.
What's that?
Her whole argument is justified.
It is.
at the town meeting.
It is. Yeah, no,
That's
it's
exactly what it
100%
is.
justified, right? But do we hold the line or do we not? Like, and let the townspeople come up with it at that point.
Well, I think we should have it, I think we should have those numbers there at the town meeting.
No,
Yeah, we will.
No, we have to be careful because we've seen wacky things at town meetings.
Yeah, but you know what? That's
Yeah.
the will of that's the will of the town at that
Well,
point.
it is, right, but it's
Yeah.
less likely to happen. My point is, it's less likely to happen if we go in with a reasonable, fair proposal than the likelihood
What
of
was the proposal?
shenanigans.
What was the proposal the year Mike got an extra $5,000?
2.5,
No,
or was it 3?
no.
I think it was 3.
Was it 3?
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
but my point is, anyone can do anything at the town
Like
meeting, and we can't, what's that?
Mike got 14% that year.
I'm not saying percentage, I'm saying someone made a motion for 5,000, and he got it, and the will of the people gave it to him. So if the will of the people want to give 3, 4, or 5%, that's the will of the people. I'm willing to take that risk, but I see your point, Beth, and I'm just not budgeting.
I just don't want another 2 hours of my life spent trying to do math to figure out what a 0.5% is, that's all.
No, I mean, the number here, like, if we're going to argue over 9,000, we should be able to find 9,000 somewhere.
We went up, we
That's the
didn't,
number
we went up, we didn't go down.
Well, and that's why I said that if we need to give that 4,000 back and just, if we worry about the
I could
fees.
see that strategy going right as you threw it out there.
I wasn't thinking that. I really just, I was terrified when people started saying that they were cutting wages in an area that I know has grown because of the reasons that it's grown. So I don't want to intentionally set us up to, people can accuse me of a lot of things, but I try not to over budget, but I try not to under budget based on what I think the actual numbers are going to come out, right?
So, my only,
You guys gonna take a vote so we can, okay, sorry.
my thought is, we've done everything we can, we see more or less, we can't really find another more amount to cut. So, I will open for discussion. Does anyone want to change the original 2% vote? If so, discuss it. If not, then we'll leave it as is and go from there.
Well, I mean, I'm leery of, a floor motion that gets us all screwed up, like we've seen.
I think
Has anybody had a floor motion to increase the COLA?
It wasn't that, it was just certain individuals got.
No,
We've had
I
two
think
town meetings. We've had 2 town meetings.
it was
to go back and watch the videos.
longevity stipends
Well,
was one of
we had,
them.
one of them was longevity
Well, that
stipends,
was a blindsided.
right? And then the other one, and at least one and maybe 2 in the last 6 years, maybe one of them was when I was in advisory, so maybe it was older than that. We've had at least 2 town meetings that I remember that we wound up fighting over either 0.5% or 1% differences between what we were presented on the floor and what people came up to the mic and presented.
I don't want to rush.
Specifically COLA applied to all employees or no? You're talking.
I'm talking specifically COLA applied to employees, and there's been at least 2 town meetings that I recall, and I can't tell you what years they were, but one when I was on the select board and one when I was on advisory, where
The COLA applied to all employees and not a
yes,
specific
and
employee.
not a specific employee.
So I would like to leave here by 8:30 if we can wrap this up.
Okay.
All right.
My heart
enough.
bleeds
So,
for you, but sure, we'll try to get you out of here.
You feel one way or the other?
Well, I'm looking at the, how much we have in the kid. And I'm thinking it's only $9,000. So I'm actually leaning to the 2.5.
And we're under the levy limit, which is.
I know, which is what.
That's what we were driving the whole time, was if we wanted.
And again, I
I
completely.
thought we weren't, but that's.
Well, exactly, that's where we thought we were. We thought we were gonna be over. And that's where the conversation about 2% was. And now it's clear we're well under, not just under, but well under. And so my point now is, with that different, with that, change
Different
of facts,
lens.
that we now know, I'm more than happy to go for the 2.5%. I don't have any problem. And I understand the compounding, but the compounding happens at 2%.
Yeah, it happens no matter what you do.
Compounding argument is the same matter.
Local
what the
receipts is down to 27 versus last year.
I don't know, let me think. Skip me for now. I gotta digest.
So we have,
We're gonna have,
I'm just thinking.
He's doing a straw
If you give us-
poll.
Yeah,
If
he's
you
doing a
give us
straw
a few more minutes, Rich, I know you're wanting to.
No, go ahead, we got 6 minutes.
Right now, I think we're sort of,
We could even come back and talk about it, right? We don't have to decide tonight.
I don't think anyone wants to come back.
You can have your next meeting and just send us a note and,
No, I mean, I understand how firmly we pushed for the 2 at the beginning because.
You thought we were over the budget.
yeah, we were way over. All the numbers said we were going to be over.
And,
it always looks like.
no, he's a 2. So,
He'd be at negative 2 if he could be.
yeah. I'm not putting any pressure on you here.
Jerry said that's in front of all.
No.
Stop, I'm the one that said 2% to begin with.
But you said it for a reason. The
That is
reason
right.
was
That is
we were over the limit. That's why we talked about it. And now we know we're not. I mean, not even close. So I don't see why we should nickel and dime.
All right, let's go for it. Someone make a motion.
I'll make a motion to change our earlier recommendation of 2% COLA to a 2.5% COLA.
Do we have a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I had my discussion already.
Yeah, we already did. Yeah, so
It takes 6 minutes.
If you want to vote,
All right.
You're over your hour, by the way.
Aye.
no.
Opposed, are you gonna take all opposed?
Yeah.
Yeah, Clark, aye.
I'm still at 2%.
Okay, so you're no,
All opposed?
no. All right, 3-2 and 2. We'll stand by our recommendation.
Okay,
So it's up to you guys.
so I don't want to have a conflict between advisory,
No, I don't.
right?
I'll try to give, I haven't commented on this at all, but I'll kind of give a quick opinion. We have we have more employees, like you said, down the other end of the street and other departments on contract that are already at
Way
3.
more.
Yeah, they're already getting more. If you go to 2, you're going to get other employees that are going to be coming to that meeting and going for the higher number.
We've had that as long as I can remember. For over 30 years, we've had that, Brad.
And I'm not
Teachers
concerned
and their
about-
contracts have been well overpaid compared to the town employees and their raises and everything about it has
Yeah.
been, so.
But I think wage inflation, like you're concerned about the compounding effect, I think the wage inflation we're going to experience going forward
Well,
is
it's
going to
already.
be more detrimental
Well,
than
it was, I think the
0.5%
budget was
anyways.
3.4 for the school versus us at 2, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't just wages, it was everything. The school, the combined budget of the school was up 3.4. Is that what it was, Beth?
2.7. That was, 3.4 was the first number that Deb had mentioned.
it's 2.7.
But she was able to
Okay.
introduce rural
Oh,
aid to
that's
bring
right.
it to 2.7.
She came back with the, okay. So 2.7.
2.7.
Yeah.
Even if we say 2, I think the floor is going to change it.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't think we can dictate that. This will be our first annual town meeting with the remote voting.
So here's one thing I do want to make sure we do, okay? Can you get Sharon to do the math so that we can have a meeting with the employees about how much they're gonna save because of the change in the insurance?
We have
that
those
we're doing?
numbers. We definitely have those numbers.
Okay,
I mean, we.
but I mean, I want to sit down and look everybody in the eye and say, I get it, but total benefit package compensation, right?
So did
Right,
all employees-
Total compensation, so for, at least for the insured employees. So for the
I'm saving $64 a month.
right. So,
But then if you're in a family plan, you're saving a couple hundred a month. if not
yeah, and
more.
so, and people on a family plan are saving a couple hundred a
Well,
month.
it really shouldn't do anything a COLA for the employees. I mean, honestly, we always have business problems.
I know.
mean, you know, I look for longevity because there are multiple other departments that do get it. And we can't get past that.
That's why we
No, I know.
You know,
I'm-
for the very
I'm-
few employees that we have left,
I'm-
work
I'm-
that have been here for 5+ years.
I'm painfully aware of that. I'm painfully aware of it, Holly. Just outnumbered. At least in this room. So,
So my suggestion was, I mean, you don't have to make a decision now. We're happy to have another meeting and revisit if you come up with some other ideas, if we come up with some other ideas as far as other places to charge.
so you're saying if we can find $9,000 out of the budget, so I'm interested in a commitment from the three no's, that if we find $9,000 to take out of the budget, that we're gonna have the support of the advisory committee in the meeting.
I think it could go through the other way. I don't know. That's what I'm thinking.
I think if we can find 9,000, we cut it and we save that too, personally. That's my opinion.
Okay. I guess we know where we're at right now.
I'm pass. Motion to adjourn the advisory committee.
We have we're going to vote to adjourn the advisory committee because we've done our stuff here.
Okay, I'm adjourned.
Motion to adjourn.
We have to vote.
Second.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We beat them.
30 seconds over.
That's all right, I'm good, I'm good. I didn't eat lunch and I'm hungry.
Okay.
Do we need to do a meeting Thursday?
I don't think you need to be here.
Okay.
It's just for a couple salads.
Right.
We'll meet next Tuesday because we have to vote on
Making sure we separate the expenditures and compact from the library so that it would not impact.
Hey, did you see the pictures of what Kyle did?
Yeah, I did, yeah. The kids are working. And that's why we're gonna use more fuel this year, right? It's pretty clear.
Yeah.
We're not sending any person because we're all.
Because there's two parts to the formula. There's two parts to the formula. The first part of the formula is that thou shalt pay